Hey everybody, my name is Eddy and I'll be hosting today's Marketplace Founders Q&A session with Ciro from Mirta. Great to have you here today. Before we jump into the questions, it'd be great just to quickly start with some introductions. So yeah, as I mentioned, I'm Eddy. I'm part of the commercial team here at Hokodo. And yeah, I've been here for a couple of years now. But yeah, my usual day-to-day job is to speaking to companies that want to streamline or upgrade their current credit process or want to introduce one. Ciro, it'd be great to hear from you quickly.
Yeah. Hi everyone, and thanks for having us as Mirta here. I'm Ciro, the co-founder of Mirta. We're a B2B marketplace, vertical in the fashion wholesale space. So we work with more than 500 brands and almost 1,500 retailers worldwide. So we connect fashion brands with the retailers, and our mission is to support them, both of them actually, to grow their wholesale business. I have a background in strategy, digital, and e-commerce. So I spent more than 10 years now working in digital innovation and disruption across different industry and markets.
Great stuff. Thanks for that, Ciro. Let's jump into the first question. So what inspired you to start a B2B marketplace?
Yeah, that's a great question. So actually, it wasn't our idea at the beginning. So we started in the fashion space, working with the same supply, but on a B2C project. No? So we were basically a B2C platform and e-commerce connecting these suppliers, so these brands that are mostly small and medium enterprises with the final consumer, no? With the international customers from the US or the Asia. But actually, during this experience, given that we had the first-hand experience now with basically being a retailer, we found out how complex and broken basically was the supply chain. How difficult it was to find suppliers to work with. We had actually a team dedicated to that. Most of them were actually not online present, so this was before COVID. So we needed actually a scouting team, no, to look for them in trade show or actually in magazines or whatever was whatever database we had available to actually find some of them. And also when we found actually an agreement with them, working with these suppliers was pretty challenging because everything was done on paper, manual. We still have picture of like invoices that were still like written manually with the huge potential for mistakes and so on. So that was on one side. We found how difficult was the life of a retailers to look for new suppliers to work with, and at the same time also dealing with all the operation, bureaucracy, and so on. At the same time, we had like a pretty good amount of proactive reach out from other retailers that discovered us, through the Facebook advertising and so on during our B2C activity, proactively asking to also work wholesale with us. So if they could source some of our brands, our products. So basically, that's when we found, okay, maybe there is something here. No, so there was like proactive demand, so proactive, customers asking to buy wholesale. We saw that the value chain was really broken on the other side. So we said, okay, let's start with an MVP while we were still running the B2C platform. And after 5 to 6 months, this basically exploded in terms of volumes and growth. And we decided, okay, there is actually something here. We should focus on this, and we pivoted completely at that point, on the B2B platform.
Yeah. Okay, no, it makes sense of what customers were actually asking for it, and you took on the opportunity. Amazing.
Yeah, absolutely. Remember also this was like COVID time, no? So
Yeah.
on top of the usual challenge, there was also actually the challenge that was difficult to travel, to visit some of the suppliers, to touch with your hands, their products. And most of these people were also not used to the digital, no? So they had no website, no, showcasing the product. So it was really a tough time. And so it was very interesting to see, how much was the interest on the market given these proactive requests.
Yeah, great stuff. Sounds like a lot of hard work on your end. Yeah, so the second question is, how did you get the funding, and what tips would you give to others?
Yeah. Well, I have to say that on the funding side, probably given that we also were coming from B2C, was much easier, no?
Okay.
In general, if you
Yeah,
look
yeah.
also at the balance, between B2B startup raising compared to B2C, obviously, the amounts are pretty different, no? I think 75% of VC money goes like in B2B startups. So actually, our experience with funding, given that, we get a lot of no's, and door closing on the B2C was much easier on the B2B. Like better investors, more investors with more interest to follow on and so on. But in general, I would say that as on top of the hype, obviously on the industry, that for sure there was because B2B marketplace 2-3 years ago were really like on the hype, like everyone was looking for the new vertical B2B marketplace. So that was for sure. But on top of this, honestly, unit economics worked much better compared to the B2C. That also was the huge turning point. Bigger average order value. In our case, also pretty relevant take rate. So there was like a good revenues and good margins on every transaction. And on top of that, customers were showing a great returning behavior, that you typically don't see in B2C commerce, given that it's more like, really transactional. Here, you really have the opportunity to build a relationship with your customers, and obviously also with the suppliers, but this was the same also on B2C. So I have to say that the fundraising was easier at the beginning because unit economics were stronger, and the business case made much more sense on top of the hype, and let's say attractiveness of B2B companies for investors. Obviously, in the last couple of years, things changed a lot. Much more difficult for everyone to raise. But yeah, we still see that if you stick to the fundamentals, and there is the opportunity, in this like space to stay on fundamentals and being very healthy on fundamentals, that's I think the key, to still attract investors and raise money.
Great stuff. Yeah, makes complete sense. What were the biggest challenges when you started? You mentioned COVID as maybe one of those challenges. Could you expand on that?
Yeah. COVID was for sure one. Actually, probably for us, COVID was more an opportunity than a challenge, because in the end, it was an accelerator for our solution. So during COVID, when suppliers and also the brands, so the seller side, couldn't sell in any other channel because they were only working physical channel, and the only remaining channel was us, the digital one. We got much more attention. We were able to provide much more orders than the others. So obviously, this increased the velocity to which we became relevant for the suppliers. At the same time, for customers also, so for the buyers, much more relevant because it was very difficult for them to source in other ways. They couldn't move, and also managing the cash flow was so difficult for them. So there was, it was in general a pretty big opportunity to grow much faster than in any other normal moment, let's say. Actually, the real challenge probably was after COVID, because we saw, we all knew about this. We read on every paper, for the tech companies and all, it was very difficult to keep this kind of growth level, in the digital space. Many people also businesses after COVID really felt this willingness, to go back to physical interaction. And in our space, this is different from industry to industry. In our industry, that is vertical and the fashion, the physical component is very relevant for two reasons. First, because there is a touch and feel. Like a cashmere sweater.
Yeah.
It's something that obviously you need to touch it and to feel it, to really perceive the quality. There was one element. The second element, there was another more objective element with the sizing. For example, we were selling suppliers from Italy or Europe to US or Asia, and the sizing system were very different. So obviously you see an M or an extra large, online, but the buyers didn't really figure out, how big it was. So they needed a actual, real interaction in the real world with a model, for example, wearing it. And third, I have to say, probably this going to trade show, going to showrooms, this physical buying for many of our buyers was actually probably the fun part of their job, So it was not easy to switch them to the only digital. So I'd say that this has been the biggest challenge for us. After COVID, seeing a strong go back to the physical interaction and physical trade show, showrooms. We didn't expect that. So, and also we didn't see it coming. So obviously at the beginning was pretty tough. We saw decreasing volumes. We didn't really actually figure out how to deal with it. So we keep pushing on marketing, promotion, and so on. But this was incentivizing the wrong behavior. They were buying probably just because there was promotion or free shipping or free return. So we realized this probably too late, and we had to adapt And so basically build a sort of, phygital model in which there was physical and digital together, no? So for example, now we participate more to trade shows with some of our brands, and also like with the, the digital part that is actually an amplification, no, of the physical component. Or also we do like physical marketing activities like physical pop-up showrooms, this kind of stuff. No? So I would say that probably to summarize it, we are seeing on the B2B something that you already saw on the B2C direct to consumer. No? So we saw the promise from the direct to consumer brands like Allbirds, and all the others that the world was going only to be digital. No, at some point, like everyone was buying online and that's it. But actually, they saw that it was very difficult to keep the unit economics, in this way, and so they had to start, opening also physical stores, so going also physical. We're seeing the same on the B2B. We started only digital, and we see always more the need to also go physical, at least to acquire the customers and then to keep them online.
Yeah, no, it makes sense. And I like the way you looked at COVID as an opportunity, as not as a problem. Great mindset. How do you stand out from your competition? I know you said you're very digitally focused. Could you expand on that question?
Yeah. I think that key for a marketplace are two elements to differentiate. The first one, obviously, is the supply. No? And for us, it's very, very true because compared to some of our competitors, but also in general to other industries, the fashion marketplace are typically, as we call, heterogeneous marketplace. So what I mean is that one supplier is not the same as the other. No? This is not like Uber, in which whatever is your driver, you just need to go from A to B. Here is different because you're looking for a specific kind of product or a specific brand in some case, and this is not replaceable by another one. No? So we see, so this like changed a lot the dynamic of the marketplace because obviously the power is on the supply side. Obviously, the buyer come on your platform because, for example, they are looking for that kind of shoes. If they find it good, otherwise they're gonna find elsewhere. No, so having like the right supply, strong supply, and also a vast assortment is very, very important and is key to differentiate. We are very known, for example, not just for being vertical in the fashion space, but also for having like high-end quality products, like made in Italy, made in France. So many people say, "Oh, we remember you because you are like you have the made in Italy product compared to others that, for example, have the made in China." No, so that was very key on the supply offering, but that's obviously not enough because then competition comes, suppliers start going on other platforms and so on, and so you immediately lose disadvantage. No, so the second element, very important, is to differentiate also from the others is also the level of service that you offer. So I think you always need to offer something more on top of the discovery to really add value. And for us, it was critical on the logistic part because basically most of our transactions, consider like 95% of our transactions are cross-border. So for example, going from Italy or France to US or Japan. So there is a huge complication of logistics, operation, and also like, custom procedures and so on. All of this is very difficult to deal for small companies like the suppliers, but also for small buyers like the independent stores we work with. So adding, a complete service in which basically, the buyer just buy and the seller just, produce the product. And then we think about the rest, like exchange of money, the shipping, the custom procedures and so on was very value adding, because it was not just adding, the discovery element, but also really like making much more simple the process to work with these suppliers.
Yeah, nice. No, sounds really good. What has worked best for you growing your user base?
Honestly, what works best probably is the combination of approaches.
Okay.
We, also at the beginning, we were looking for, like the channel that was able to grow us, 3x year over year, with low CAC. Obviously, it's like the Sacro Graal, somehow. Obviously, this was not possible. What we really realized was that there is not one channel that is better, but it's the combination of channels.
Okay.
What's the best combination and what should be the healthy balance of different channels? For us, basically, it was really the combination of three things. One was classic sales approach. So we have an internal sales team that approach customers, potential customers, and help them to convert. Second is the referral. So like our suppliers refer their own customers. And third was a participation to trade shows or showrooms, so like these kind of offline events. I think the combination of these three was worked better for us. But it's not just one channel, it's
Okay.
like really like putting your eggs in different baskets, and that's how you can maximize your return.
Keeping that balance. Yeah, no, makes sense. How do you get and then use feedback from your users?
Oh, we do this a lot, honestly, in particular on the supply side, because again, in our marketplace, that's where the power is, no? Somehow, given that one product is not replaceable by another one, that's where you have the power, no? So we use a lot of feedback. We always say that basically, really, we built our platform based on the feedback and the need of our supply base, and that's exactly true, no? On top of marketplace, obviously, we have the back office, the order management system that we developed internally and that we provide for free to our supply base, as many other marketplaces. And this was really built based on their needs. So we developed a lot of this customer-centric approach in which basically we develop features and we release features really once a week, or like every 2 weeks and so on. So very frequently we get immediately feedback and we adjust. So that's very important because one of the key differentiation also for us is that given that we are vertical in the fashion industry, we are building a back office that is good for the fashion industry. So there is no one else that has a similar product, in the market. So you cannot just go and copy. You can start obviously from some basic standards for that, but then you need really to adjust given the feedback of your customers. So that's what we did a lot.
No, sounds really good. What mistakes have you made and what did you learn from them?
I mean, the biggest one probably was to go too fast on the supply.
Mm-hmm.
Something that we learned with experience was that given, again, the specificity of our industry, so the fashion industry, and given that we were high-end, at some point we accelerated too much the acquisition of new suppliers, and this basically diluted a little bit the quality of the offering for buyers. And we saw actually the rate of buying was not going up, but was basically going down, not per each customer. So and yeah, because they saw us like a very good curator of good suppliers. When we added too fast, was not only that we diluted the quality, but also there was not enough capacity from the buyer side to keep up with the pace of growth that we were having.
Yeah.
And so we realized that probably in this initial phase it was better to go a bit slower on the supply side and really make it more digestible for the buyers instead of going so fast. So I think that was like the biggest learning.
I feel like I've heard that a few times. I feel like it's the classic problem when you go too fast too quickly and then the product that you make isn't what you wanted it to be. So yeah, makes sense. What are your sort of long-term goals for your marketplace?
I mean, the long-term goal for us is, since the beginning, honestly, was really to build the end-to-end, platform. Obviously, vertical in the fashion space, that's where we work, but the end-to-end one, So we started for the marketplace from the beginning. So like, enabling, discovering new business generation and so on, and the transaction. Second, we added the back office that we call Officina. That basically is like the order management system from the supply. So to help and manage all the operation between the two actors. The third piece that we see extremely valuable, and obviously there is Hokodo also for that, with whom we are trying to build our partnership, is on the payment part, because obviously like the credit component is very tricky, as you know better than me, in B2B marketplaces. Typically the cash flow are very difficult to manage because buyers, they need to pay immediately. Then you have like the supplier that takes maybe 6 months to produce a product and then deliver, but then the buyer is exposed with too much cash outflow at the beginning. So we need to find the right balance on this. So this is the third piece that we want to add and basically monetize also on these. And that's what we see as like an end-to-end platform. That's the goal that we want to reach because it's really key today to offer the full service to both the brands and the retailers.
100%. Yeah, no, makes sense. And yeah, lastly, sort of where do you see B2B marketplaces, evolving to in say 5 to 10 years time?
Yeah, I mean, we are we believe a lot in the idea that, what we are seeing today in B2B marketplace is really like the first wave of marketplace, but we expect, more waves going forward.
Yeah.
This happened in, B2C marketplace, B2C product. So I mean, we're coming after, but we expect a similar kind of behavior. No? At the beginning, there were really all the generalists, no? And for generalists, they also mean, like, for example, the marketplace that work just in the wholesale space, but in different categories. No? But I think that, when you have a B2B marketplace, differently from a B2C, you have business on both sides. No? These are always SaaS-enabled marketplaces because you need to go into the workflows of both sides and add more value with tech and products. No? And the more specific you can be for the industry you are targeting, the better service you can provide and the more competitive advantage you have. So what I expect in 5-10 years from now is to see a second wave of vertical marketplaces that are going to have a stronger competitive advantage compared to the generalist one. So that's how I see the industry evolving.
Yeah. Okay. No, makes sense. Appreciate that insight. Yeah, that's all the questions I have for you today. Any final remarks before we end today's session?
No, I think we covered, pretty much all the most important stuff, that we
Yeah.
saw during our journey. It's pretty tough, to build a marketplace in general. B2B marketplaces even more, no, because transactions are higher in terms of volume. There are, long-lasting relationship in place. So yeah, it's a very tough journey, but very exciting because you really see the impact, no, on other businesses, in particular small and medium businesses. So that's very fulfilling. So yeah.
Yeah, great stuff. Well, yeah, thank you, Ciro. That's everything for today.
Thank you, Ed.
Thanks.